Hello everyone, and thank you for clicking on another one of my videos. I am Screen Scene Guru, and today I'll be discussing comic book reviews. So be sure to stay tuned and be subscribed to my channel for updates on comic book knowledge and movie news. Starting off, I'll take this off real quick. That's a bit better. Going into my first comic book review, we've got Fantastic Four. I've been catching up, getting ready for the movie release. Really excited about the movie. This is issue 23. This came out in 1990. So a very interesting issue. Part 1 of 4. Show off the cover right there. We start off our comic with the Fantastic Four returning to Earth. In the midst of looking for the Baxter Building, they discovered that things aren't as how they remember them. Very interesting enough, they end up discovering the Baxter Building without the infamous Fantastic Four logo on the top. So that was really cool to find out. Then we get to see them arriving in the lobby, the hotel room. Very interesting stuff there. They do have to dodge many traps, which are set up inside the Baxter Building. A self-defense system that is very interesting. They have to fort. Going on, we see that there's already a group of Fantastic Four there in the Baxter Building as our newcoming heroes descend upon them. And one thing to note is that they are with Franklin Richards. They have the child with them while they're battling amongst this other group of the Fantastic Four. So that was really interesting to find out. Then after they're all captured, they see Reed studies their biometrics and their DNA. And he says they're not clones, they're not hybrids or anything else. They're exact copies from another universe. And they do show off an adult Franklin Richards. I thought that was really interesting. And they mention that they are connected as one Omega Mutants. So that was really cool to see. He does end up changing the top of the building to being the Fantastic Four logo, like it is in his universe. So I thought that was cool. Then we jump back through a little bit of story with Jean Grey and also Sue Storm being trapped on a desolated island. Very interesting stuff here. And then of course Franklin Richards enacting his powers, and one of the Sentinel program droids is awakened to fight Nathaniel Richards. So it's very interesting. A lot of people are reacting to the change of the building in the town. So that's pretty cool. And they classically know the Baxter Building is the house of Fantastic Four. Then we get to see some more clashing of the teams. So that's nice. Going on, we've got a bit of Franklin Richards asking his parents, why is his grown-up adult self acting this way? And they kind of, sweep it under the rug like, oh, this group of Fantastic Four must not have raised him right. But it was very interesting how they show off the car, space car, and of course Human Torch flying alongside them. Then we go on to seeing that they've got Marsha Rosenberg. Doom has several people in a kind of stasis chamber, which is very interesting. Then we get to see Volcana and her joining with the Beyonder, which is very interesting because the Beyonder is a multiverse character. Recently, at the instance of two other melding entities, Shaper of Worlds and Bukai, Yeah, talking about the cosmic cube, and of course the wizard and Doctor Doom is trying to get his hands on the cosmic cube because this is how he restructures the multiverse after the events of Secret Wars. So very interesting stuff here. We also see some lovely ladies using their superpowers, kind of getting in a bit of property damage in there. So we see a little bit of her discussing, where is she? Oh, she's looking for her pals. Then going into Marsha Rosenberg, she turns herself into the police, knowing that Doom has done something to her, change her, give her powers. While meanwhile, we see the other lady was in the hospital, asleep in a coma, until she arose, her powers activated to be Moonstone. So a very interesting comic book villain right here, sorry, over here, in yellow, Moonstone. So that was fascinating to hear. Villainess, that Doom turned these ladies into villains. And then of course we see Barbara use her powers, which her powers are similar to the Absorbing Man, where she can touch materials and become as solid as they are. So that's very interesting. Then we see Moonstone doing her licks, kicking up the cops. So that was very bad. Then of course they go into a brawl outside the hospital. Very nice. And in the last couple pages, guys, we see she does get in a sneak attack, Moonstone. So that's nice. Let's see. Yeah, they both just go swinging hammers on it. So that's cool. Let's see. After she takes care of Moonstone, she leaves, and Doom is basically back to Protocol Doom. Another plan is enacted due to these ladies not working for him. And I thought this was really interesting right here. This is follow-up to another comic book reaction I did, guys. These are with celestial entities going throughout the cosmos, throughout the multiverse. And they're talking about realities, and let's see, so right here they come across, one of the first ones they come across is the Dark Phoenix, which is consecutively going on with X-Men, and then they come across down here the Watchers, the whole Council of Watchers, which is really cool. So this comic really essentially wraps up the multiverse, which I thought was really cool given that Phase 5 just ended. They got condensed into single mentality, each of them billion souls, Mangot, the Overmind, and Anti-Mind. Then they talk about the High Evolutionary, the Strangler, then several other evolutionary changes, evolutionary change, Metamorphy Trophy, Eon, the Secret Cosmic Awareness, the Unknown Celestials, and the Mythic Vashanti. So very interesting. And they go into the bad side of the universe as well. All the dark stuff that exists. Thanos, and death as well. They do mention death in here. So that's really interesting to see all these, even the Living Tribunal. So that was really cool. They kind of teased that in Thor: Love and Thunder, but they didn't explain it. They didn't set it up very well. And even right at the end, they've got Galactus and Eternity. So that was really fascinating to see. They put them in a Fantastic Four comic. But the Fantastic Four are Crux, or these pivotal characters in the multiverse. So it makes sense that they're going to start this new phase with Fantastic Four. Yeah, very interesting. This was this comic right here. Good shot of it right there. Cool. Going into my next couple comics, guys, I want to make sure to remind you to like the videos, subscribe if you haven't already. I'm already at 72 subscribers, so big shout out to everyone giving me support on the channel. Thank you very much. You can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, at Scene Screen Guru. So going on into this, we've got Terminator. Big fan of Terminator here. I've even considered watching Salvation again, just to get my thoughts on it now. But this is issue number 17 from Now Comics. Try to find a year on this thing. 1989. So really good year, Terminator. Looking like Arnold on the cover. So interesting story here. We get to see, even in the year 2031, the battle continues. Escape from Silver Dollar. So we get to see a young lady raised up in a work camp from the Terminators. Very dark future. He talked about how they loaded them into crates like cattle when they came of age at 19, and they slaughtered a lot of them. Then it goes to show, the daily life, the routine of living inside one of the camps, which I thought was very fascinating. This was a glimpse of the Terminator that we didn't get to see a whole lot of in Salvation, so that was interesting. We do get to see there were some robots that had humanoid features, like human heads, but they were still Terminators that were kind of the waypoint between human and Terminator before they made the full synthetic robot. We saw glimpses of this in Salvation with Sam Worthington, which I liked him in the movie, so that was interesting. Going on right here, we see a crowd erupts in a fight after the Terminators open fire, and they begin breaking down the fencing, keeping them there, so they start to fight. We see that they do manage to hotwire a car, so it's really good, while continuing their battle. Then going on, we could full pursuit chase through the streets of a derelict city of Silver Dollar, abandoned mining town, I'm guessing. Very interesting that he sent one of the officers after them with the kill squad, while the humans had to stop for fuel, refuel their truck. So that was very interesting. I like that everyone started wearing shades, like Arnold. Then, of course, we see them back in the open country. They do have an encounter with the Terminators, catching them up. So that's very interesting. After the humans have a bit of delay in their travels, they have to repair a tire, and the Terminators are coming in hot pursuit. Very interesting setup. They don't have a whole lot of weapons on their hand, but we do see their leader decides to take the stance and go out in the middle of the road and start the fight early. Do the brave choice, of course. And then after the first truck is taken out, he's unfortunately taken out by fellow Terminators, and they have to flee. Very interesting stuff here. They also reference the game, I guess, Terminator: The Burning Earth. It might have been a comic as well, I'm not sure. Burning Earth. Very interesting. It looks like a graphic novel. Stuff right here. The humans fighting the robots. Again, Terminators, while being pursued on the streets. And we get to see one of them thinks real fast to make the car into a bomb, loading fuel onto the car. And then we see his sketchy move is a success by taking out the Terminator's vehicle, slowing him down, because the best chances they do have of survival is slowing down the Terminator. And then, of course, we see after the explosion, he's just kind of ahead, still like reading out orders and whatnot, and they just have to blow up the body. See that right there. smithereens until there's nothing but pieces. But that was a really fun read from 1989's Terminator. Highly recommend you guys check out the comics and read them. Let me know what your thoughts are. I've got a few more, so real quick I'll put back on my helmet. This is a Marvel Legends Magnus helmet, but showing off my next comic. We've got Fantastic Four Unlimited, Monsters Unleashed. So really cool stuff there. Take this off real quick. This was issue number 7, and it was from, let's see, 1994. So really cool stuff. Awesome artwork. Shape of things that came. So really interesting. We start off by seeing that Ant-Man has joined the chat with the Fantastic Four and a gelatinous creature they're fighting, similar to the first issue. This one called Molten Man-Thing. So very interesting stuff there. You do see a little bit of them fighting. And then going on, we see the news camera crew capturing the carnage with the Thing and the Molten Man-Thing. Very interesting to see that these were creations of a person that was trying to premiere his art studio. So very fascinating stuff, kind of like a Maxwell Lord figure that came out of the shadows to basically come out. Frank Johnson, yeah. So Frank Johnson made all of these ginormous, wonderful, elaborate statues of creatures, foes that supposedly do exist, but these were just mock replicas. He talks about Blimp, alien composed of electrical energy, Gartu, king of insects, Gorar, king of Spider-Men, and just a two-headed creature. Very interesting. We get to see his backstory and how he was obsessed with the arts and crafting these megalithic creatures after being struck by lightning. It's very interesting stuff there. Then we get to see him showing off the museum. His son likes to meet the Fantastic Four, so that's really cool, and they get a family affair. Then of course the other Fantastic Four are questioning how he made the creature so realistic, and we do get to see the introduction of Peter Parker, photographer, from the Spider-Man comics. So that's really cool. But then, just as quickly as he's introduced, we see there are a Mayan threat that have faced off against Ant-Man before. So the Mayans were kind of the bad guys in a lot of the old school comics. I don't know why. They thought it was a cool idea, I guess. But they introduced these Mayans coming back, kind of like a night at the museum type event, where they all had to get inside this big battle. So very interesting stuff. Then of course the creatures came alive, which is what Sue Storm was worried about, them becoming inanimate and then gaining sentience and joining the battle. So that was very interesting to see. There. Okay. It was a pretty intense battle. But one of the interesting things I thought about this issue was that no Reed Richards. They replaced him with Ant-Man, Scott Pym. So that was, or Hank Pym. So that was very interesting. They do that, and we do see a cameo in this of Spider-Man later on when Peter Parker changes out of his civilian clothes into his superhero outfit. But unfortunately, the Fantastic Four and Ant-Man do not yet know the identity of Spider-Man, so he's just kind of waiting, watching in the background to see if they need a tag in, but he unfortunately does not participate in the issue, which I thought was kind of interesting. So going into this, his son is, upset about why his heroes are having to fight their friends. We see the giant ant creature try to golf up Sue Storm. That was really interesting. That. Really cool battle sequences. Okay, let me see if I can find. That's pretty cool. Johnny and the Thing have to work together to take out the monsters. Okay. And then, of course, the giant ant is battling with Ant-Man over an army of ants, whether or not who will have control over the giant fighting force. And of course we see Ant-Man takes down the giant ant with his psychic army, and here's Spider-Man showing up. So that was the highlight of the comic, kind of. Ant-Man and Spider-Man being in Fantastic Four. Yeah, so that was really cool. And then of course they threaten to sacrifice the cheapskate's son for their ritual. I'm not exactly sure why they need to do this ritual, but very interesting. They're trying to awaken their monster, which is bigger than all of the other creations the guy has been making. So I thought that was very interesting. Looking to see if they have a name for this creature. Show you off this little image. Them all fighting it. Very interesting. Very similar to the creature they first fight in the first issue. Big green, similar to when the Thing meets the Hulk. But yeah, then we get to see another big creature. Like Obi-Wan says, there's always a bigger fish. Very interesting. And they have a big colossal battle, Godzilla Kong style. And then at the end of the issue, they all hash out their differences and basically say, oh, all is forgiven, which is very interesting. And then they show off some cover art on the back, which I like a lot. Show off that cover art. But yeah, this was this issue. Fantastic Four Unlimited. Highly recommend Monsters Unleashed if you guys haven't checked it out. Going on to my last comic for today, guys. I've got another Terminator comic for you. This is a pretty big deal because this is The Burning Earth. Issue 1 of 5. This came out, let's see, a year, 1989, just like the Arnold cover. So I'll show off this right here, and it's just a gorgeous art cover. Gives me very much vibes of Terminator 3, or even the Sarah Connor Chronicles. If you guys watched that show, very good. So going into the first page, we see a muddy, rainy, dystopian world with people rolling out, soldiers deployed. And then of course, ooh, the page style is very nice for this. The dreary battle that is to come, humans marching to machines, really grim outcome in the future with these tanks and all the sky ships. Skynet has basically all airspace control, domination. So that's very tough for the humans to battle against. You get to see their cars getting blown up while they are also taking out Skynet aircraft, trying to level the field. But what it takes to, win the day is always really a lot more than it's worth, often or not. We do see, interesting enough in this comic, we see Skynet using toxic nerve gas on humans. Something that I don't know if they've gone into that in the lore before in the movies, but I thought it was very fascinating. They talk about a painful death that lasts seconds, but it's better than being crushed or laser blasted, I guess. I'm not sure. But lethal gassing, and then of course they roll in with tanks. It's very interesting stuff there. This comic does follow the story of Bear Connor, which is, I believe, John Connor's son, or maybe even grandson. So continuing into the future, this is 2031. It's very interesting. They mentioned they got to take out the side guns on the cannon and then climb up the ramps. So it's very interesting. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get the gun on his side, and the Terminator got him. But they did manage to plant the bomb, and the tank was destroyed. But that unfortunately led more Terminators to come to the area. So yeah, constant battling, guys, going on in the future. I do wish they adapted these particular comics where John Connor's line continued on. Because I think that it would have been an alright storyline. I do like Terminator Dark Fate, where it went in that direction, because they brought back Sarah, right? They brought back Sarah Connor. Very nice. And like I said, I might go back into the movies and try doing reviews of Genesis or some of the others, but I just haven't really gotten around to it yet. But really fascinated by these comics. You see Bear just wanting to take a breath, a rest, and not have to go back out to the fight. He thinks maybe it's better for him to give up. And then he finds a young couple caught in the rubble. He sees that he's not willing to abandon her to the machines, and Bear is inspired again to go out and fight for what's right. Fight for humanity. He gives out a big war cry, letting the machines know the humans won't stop fighting them till every last one. So that's very interesting. They mention we run from the battlefield like whipped dogs, but they're alive. And then Skynet would unleash its jackals, which they describe as puppets of horror created by machines with sick genius. A steel-plated Frankenstein copy of a man, a perfect duplicate, but for one exception. So very interesting. These jackals were released on them, which I don't think they've gone into the jackals in the TV show or the movies yet. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments, guys. But yeah, we get to see they have pretty much no mercy for humanity, even when they're dying at their feet. But of course they're heartless machines, so they wouldn't have mercy. But yeah, very interesting stuff here, guys, from The Burning Earth, Terminator. Let me know what you thought of the comic. Let me know, are you guys reading comics right now? Are you going out and buying comics? I'm currently going through my old collection just to see what's what. But I want to give a big shout out to everyone that's been watching. Have a good day, and be sure to check out my channel for future content. And I'll see you guys next time. Alrighty. Bye-bye.